In the end, I think what's going to happen is we're going to have great deals. And by the way, if we don't have a deal with a company or a country, we're going to set the tariff over the next 2-3 weeks. We'll be setting the number, and we're going to pick, could be for China too, could be for China.
It's getting more and more confusing between the U.S. and China over tariffs. A few days ago, former President Donald Trump said that the United States is talking to China about making a new deal to remove or cut tariffs. Trump told a crowd that negotiations were happening, and he made it sound like something big was coming soon. But shortly after that, China pushed back hard. Officials from Beijing said that what Trump said was simply not true. They made it clear that no formal talks were happening about tariff cuts right now. This situation has left everyone wondering what is actually going on. Are they talking behind closed doors? Is Trump trying to put pressure on China by saying talks are happening? Or is this all just part of the drama that often comes with U.S.-China relations?
Trump administration is considering slashing its steep tariffs on China by as much as in half in an effort to de-escalate tensions. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, however, says Trump has not offered to take down tariffs on China on a unilateral basis.
It's important to understand where all this started. Back when Trump was president, he launched a huge trade war with China. He placed heavy tariffs on Chinese goods coming into the U.S. The idea was to punish China for what Trump called unfair trade practices. In return, China slapped tariffs on American products too. It hurt both countries' economies, but Trump believed it was the right thing to do. American businesses and consumers are still feeling the pinch. Products made with Chinese parts or completely manufactured in China are often more expensive. Some companies have even moved their factories to other countries to avoid the tariffs. Farmers, manufacturers, and small business owners have been asking for some kind of relief. They say the tariffs are hurting them more than they are hurting China. This is why Trump's recent comments made headlines. If the U.S. and China are working on a deal to cut tariffs, it could mean lower prices for American consumers. It could mean better profits for businesses.
Today, reality bites Donald Trump in the you-know-where. If the price of eggs propelled Donald Trump to victory in November, then his man-made economic instability, which has rattled markets and ushered in unease for American consumers, may very well be his political undoing. A wave of new polls show that both Donald Trump's approval ratings and voters' opinions of his handling of the economy are today in free fall.
It could even cool down tensions between the two biggest economies in the world. But China's quick denial makes it look like things aren't so simple. Adding even more confusion to the story, China recently announced that it would waive tariffs on some U.S. goods. At first, this sounded like a sign of peace. Maybe China was extending an olive branch. Maybe this was the beginning of a bigger deal. But when reporters asked Chinese officials if this move was part of a broader negotiation, they said no. They explained that the tariff exemptions were routine and based on the needs of Chinese businesses. According to them, it had nothing to do with any new talks with the U.S. Meanwhile, the markets are reacting nervously. On the financial side, the value of the U.S. dollar against the Japanese yen dropped after news spread about tariff confusion and expectations that the Federal Reserve might cut interest rates sooner than expected.
Reports say the Trump administration is considering slashing tariffs on Chinese goods, in some cases by more than half. China is currently facing up to 245% tariffs on imports to the United States, but the base tariff on most products being 145%. But now the Trump administration is seeking to reduce them to around 50 or 60%.
Investors don't like uncertainty, and right now, uncertainty is everywhere. People are asking, if the U.S. and China are not actually negotiating, then where is this heading? Will the trade war get worse again, or will both sides find a way to quietly back off without losing face? Another interesting point is that China is trying to protect its economy through other moves. Reports show that China is focusing more on offering targeted tariff exemptions. Instead of making a big, sweeping deal with the U.S., they are trying to help their own companies survive the effects of tariffs by choosing specific American products to exempt. This strategy is smart from China's point of view. It allows them to help their economy without giving Trump or the U.S. an easy political win.
The White House is considering tax reductions in a bid to de-escalate tensions with Beijing that have roiled global trade. In fact, on Wednesday, the president said he gets along well with Chinese President Xi Jinping and wants to make a fair deal with Beijing.
Many experts say that China has no real interest in making Trump look good right now. They know he is running again for president, and they are careful about doing anything that might be seen as helping him. At the same time, they know that the Chinese economy has its own problems, and they can't afford to make things worse with more trade battles. So where does that leave us? Right now, it looks like both sides are playing games in the media. Trump wants to sound tough and in control. He wants to show that he can bring China to the negotiating table again. China, on the other hand, wants to show that they are strong too and not easily pushed around. Behind the scenes, there might be low-level talks happening. Sometimes countries don't announce negotiations until they are close to reaching an agreement. Sometimes leaders will deny talks just to avoid showing weakness or to buy time. So it's possible that some kind of communication is happening between the two governments, but nothing official or serious enough to call negotiations yet. What's clear is that businesses are watching very closely. Farmers who sell soybeans, car makers who import parts, tech companies that assemble their products in China, all of them are hoping for some good news. Tariffs have been a heavy burden, and many companies say they are tired of waiting for relief. Some businesses have raised prices because of tariffs. Others have shut down factories or laid off workers. Everyone would welcome a real deal that makes trade smoother again. American consumers would also benefit. Lower tariffs usually mean lower prices on things like electronics, clothing, toys, and even groceries. At a time when inflation is already hurting families, any break in prices would be a big deal. However, there's also politics to consider. Even if Trump were right and talks were happening, reaching a deal wouldn't be easy. Both sides have long memories. The trade war years were painful. Trust is low. There are many big disagreements between the U.S. and China on things like technology, security, and the global economy.
No, I haven't brought it down. I haven't brought it still 145. I haven't brought it down. I said it's a high tariff. It is a high tariff, but I haven't brought it down. It basically means China's not doing any business with us, essentially, because it's a very high number. But we get along. I get along very well with President Xi, and I hope we can make a deal. Otherwise, we'll set a price, and hopefully they'll come here and they'll contribute. And if they don't, that's okay.
Tariffs are just one piece of a much bigger and more complicated puzzle. In fact, some experts say that even if tariffs are reduced, the relationship between the U.S. and China will never go back to what it was before the trade war. Companies have already started shifting their supply chains. Countries like Vietnam, India, and Mexico have benefited because businesses are looking for safer, cheaper places to make goods. Global trade is changing, and the U.S.-China rivalry is a big reason why. One thing that everyone agrees on is that we are not going back to normal anytime soon. The world is different now. Even if some tariffs go away, the competition between the U.S. and China will continue. Both countries want to be the world's top economy. Both want to lead in technology, energy, and manufacturing. In many ways, the trade war was just the beginning of a bigger, longer competition. For now, we are stuck with a lot of questions. Is Trump bluffing? Is China playing it cool? Are real talks happening secretly? Will businesses get some relief soon? Or are we looking at more years of high prices, supply chain problems, and tense headlines? As always, time will tell. For now, it's a waiting game. Every small move by either side, whether it's a speech, a press release, or a tweet, will be closely watched and picked apart by analysts, investors, businesses, and regular people hoping for some good news. Until then, we will keep hearing bold claims, strong denials, and a lot of noise. But behind all the noise, the reality is that both the US and China need each other. Their economies are too big and too connected to completely break apart. Sooner or later, whether it's now or later this year, they will have to find a way to deal with each other. Whether it's through quiet deals, public negotiations, or simple business adjustments, the two countries will keep trading, arguing, and competing. Because that's the world we live in now. If you want more videos on political and trade updates, please subscribe to our channel.